Oh, hi, everybody. It's me, Kelly. Today, we're going to put on some makeup because I love to put on makeup. And we're also going to tell you a very special story because I love to tell stories, don't I? But we're going to start with some products that I really love and have trusted ever since I was a little bitty girl. They're from Crayola. That's how you say it. You have to put the la in there. Crayola. Ha ha. Well, I've been saving this story for a long time. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. See those guys? I did their hair and makeup. I did. Pretty damn spiffy, isn't it? Ha ha ha. Yeah. Well, I've been saving this story for a long time. It's about the time me and James caught the bank robbers. Now, we didn't actually mean to catch them. It just kind of worked out that way. But one morning before school, James told Mama he was sick. Now, none of us believed him because he was always acting like he was sick, but this time he got a little bit more conniving. One of his friends had given him some Copenhagen snuff at school a few days ago, but instead of putting it in his mouth, he put it in his pocket and squirreled it away for a special occasion. Well, that special occasion was this morning. Right before he told Mama he was sick, he swallowed a great big old chunk of that snuff. And as soon as he went and said, Mama, I feel sick, he ran to the bathroom and threw up all over everywhere. Well, I guess that pretty well convinced Mama that he wasn't faking it, even though he was. And Mama told me to stay at home with him and keep an eye on him. And well, no sooner had she left the driveway, James jumped up out of bed and took off out to the shed in the back and grabbed his tackle box and his fishing pole. Well, it wasn't really a tackle box and it wasn't really a whole fishing pole. It was just like an old rusty lunchbox that somebody had thrown away and a fishing rod that didn't have any reel and the tip was broke off. Well, just a couple of minutes later, the neighbor boy, Charlie, came over carrying his fishing stuff. Well, I ran out there and I asked James and Charlie, what the hell, where do you think you're going? To which James replied, we're going to go fishing without you, so don't even think about it. Well, I had no intention of just letting him run off alone. And I could have told him I was going to kick his ass or that I was going to tell Mama, but I just let him go without a fight, which seemed to puzzle James when I just told him to be home before anyone gets there. So when I saw them walking off down the road, I waited a little while and then I trailed behind them. I knew where they were going. They were going to that old wooden bridge over the creek off of this dirt road that was about 2.5 miles away. As soon as they got out of sight, I took off right behind them. It was about a 20-minute walk. When I got there, there was James and Charlie standing on that old wooden bridge, just peeing off of it. Now, this wasn't a very big bridge. It was made of wood, and it was only wide enough for one car at a time, and it just had a little old wooden guardrail about 2 feet tall right on the edge. And they were standing there peeing and joking like, oh, this water sure is cold, and this water sure is deep, ha 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 ha. And I popped up on them. I said, what the hell are y'all doing? Well, Charlie, he was startled and embarrassed, and he put it away so fast that he just peed all over everywhere. All over himself, all over his shoes. And of course, it didn't faze James any, and he just laughed his ass off. Well, James looked at me, and then he grinned and said, why don't you come join us? Oh, yeah, because girls can't pee off a bridge, ha 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 ha. Well, I walked straight up to him and I said, you don't think so? Just watch this. And I stepped over that little guardrail, pulled my pants down and hung my butt over the side of that bridge and started peeing. Well, Charlie, he turned red as a fire truck, and his mouth hung open like a great big idiot. James was laughing as usual, pointing at Charlie, going, ha, 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 ha. Well, no sooner had I started peeing when we heard a car coming down the dirt road. Well, I hopped over the guardrail as quick as I could while I was trying to pull on my pants, but they were kind of tight, and I had to do the wiggle, 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 wiggle thing to try to get them up over my hips. And, well, I guess when that driver saw a little girl wiggling her bare ass in the middle of the road, it distracted him a bit because he swerved right off the road and got his car stuck down in a creek. We didn't even have time to ask him if they were all right before two men jumped out of that car, and one of them reached in and grabbed a big old burlap sack, and they took off running up the other side of the bank. Well, Charlie got scared, and he just grabbed his stuff and took off back home. But me and James took off following those two men. And it wasn't very long before we saw that one of them had gotten tangled up really bad in a greenbrier patch. He tore his pants really bad, and he tore his burlap sack while he was trying to pull on it to get it loose. But I guess he didn't notice that he had tore the whole bottom out of that sack when he yanked on it, and he just left a string of money trailing behind him as he ran away. Well, me and James went right behind him, and we picked up all that money and ran back and put it in his tackle box and headed home. Well, a while later, we found out those men had robbed the bank because we saw the police coming down the road with their sirens on. But they didn't stop and ask us anything, and we were really glad about that. But when we got back home, we counted all that money, and there was $217. That was the most cash money either of us had ever seen. So we immediately started plotting how we were going to spend that money. But we decided to hide it in the tool shed because nobody ever went out there to the tool shed. And we wouldn't spend a bunch of it. We would just spend a little bit at a time. So no one would get suspicious. So we both just took $1 apiece and went to the store to buy candy and Cokes. Now, back then, everything was a Coke. If you were going to go buy a Coke, you might say, yo, you were probably going to buy a Dr. Pepper or an Orange Crush. It was like you would ask, what kind of Coke you want? You want Mountain Dew? But anyway, back in those days, $1 would buy 2 Cokes and 2 candy bars and still have a nickel left over, so that's what we did. Well, the store owner, Mr. White, he had never seen us kids with paper money before unless we were getting stuff for the family, and he did get suspicious. But he didn't say anything to us, but as soon as we left, he started calling around and asking where we might have got $2 from. Well, to make a long story short, or maybe a short story long, just a little while later, the police showed up at our house, and they made us confess that we had all that money in the shed, except for $2. The cops almost had to let those bank robbers go because they couldn't find any evidence, but now they had their evidence, plus they had witnesses. And we didn't get any trouble over it. Matter of fact, the bank gave us $250 reward, but they gave it to us in a U.S. savings bond. We immediately took that savings bond to the bank to cash it in and found out it was only worth $12 until it matured 25 years later. Well, we didn't have time for that, so we took the $12 and we got our picture in the paper, and we were heroes for catching that bank robbers. Well, that's about it. I'll see you next time. This is Kelley saying bye.